After what felt like a really long winter break, each team have finally launched their title contenders for this season of F1. So, what I thought I'd do here is go through and give you my thoughts of each of the liveries and rank them from worst to best. A revolutionary and simply groundbreaking idea, I know, so without further ado, let's get into it. In last place then, number 10, I have AlphaTauri. I don't like this livery. What was really good livery over the past 2 seasons with that white and blue sort of palette, you know, that deep navy blue and the white, they've ruined it. Bringing in Orlean as a sponsor, obviously great for the team, you know, standing on their own 2 feet away from Red Bull, but that red, which is obviously Orlean's sort of brand colour, it's like they've just slapped it onto the car last minute wherever they can. Very sort of slapdash basically. There's a couple of places where I think it works. In the wheel covers, for example, that inner circle of red with the dashes of white coming out of it, I think that looks really good. I think it looked good on track as well. But everything else, just the blocks of it, there's no sort of coherent flow to the car, it feels like, whereas in previous years it had that. So yeah, this livery's not for me. In 9th spot then I have Alpine. They've fallen so far from where they were on the livery side of things. Back in 2021 they had an amazing livery. It's such a nice blue, and back in that 21 season with the Alpine logo at the back with the red and the white and the blue stripe as well, it just looked lovely. But now obviously this year with even more weight saving, so you've got the exposed carbon as we see on, well, pretty much all of the cars, we've lost even more of that blue. Last year we lost a chunk of it to the pink of the BWT, and this year we're losing even more of it to the carbon and weight saving. So we've only got this strip left really down the centre, which personally I think was the strongest part of the car, that sort of rich, almost not quite electric blue, but it's a really deep sort of vibrant blue, especially with the sort of semi reflective matte finish that they have on it, or have had on it. Whether or not that will change this year, as we've only really seen renders properly, but yeah, it just could have been so much better than what it is, and so it's in my 9th spot. Falling into the number 8 spot then, I have the Haas livery. I'm glad they tried to do something different. It's a shame it turned out like this. There's things on this car that just don't work in terms of like spacing of things and lines and all sorts. The MoneyGram logo, for example, the fact that the MoneyGram, like the text, is so small and the circle with the arrow through it is so big, I think that looks a bit janky. Sure, you'd have it the other way around or have it somewhere else on the car. I think they needed to have a couple more lines of white or red, especially at that side angle. You look at it, the red kind of just disappears along the Haas. So I think they should have sort of carried that red line from the front on the nose all the way down the side, similar to how Mercedes have their Petronas sort of line going down the side of the car. I think that would have looked better. I just don't know what they're trying to do. Yeah, it's just not for me. Moving on to number 7, I have Red Bull. They've not changed much really at all, if anything, aside from, you know, sponsor placement. It's very much still the same. You know, you've got the bull on the roll hoop, you've got Oracle down the side, you've got that deep almost sort of midnight blue at the base of the car, the Red Bull at the front as well, on the nose. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, I suppose. They're trying to obviously build that this is what the Red Bull car looks like, similar to how, you know, you had the McLaren Marlboro for years and years and years. I think like something like 20 something years that livery was on that McLaren, of the red and the white. So they're clearly trying to do something of a similar ilk, so I don't see them changing it drastically anytime soon. Luckily it is a strong livery, hence why it hasn't really gone any further down this list, and it's more than likely going to stay like this in this place over the years. It'd be nice if they did like a test livery like they used to do. They did the glitch one, they've done others. You know, add a bit of variety, spice it up a bit, to give not only us livery fans but the Red Bull fans, you know, something else to look at. Even from like a merchandise point of view, it'd be worthwhile, I'm sure. But yeah, no real complaints here other than the fact that they haven't done anything different, which I don't blame them for, so can't complain really. But yeah, they're in number 7. Alfa Romeo then in the number 6 spot. Now this is how you do a weight saving livery properly. You know, they've kept it minimal. They've got just a block of red at the back and a block of red at the front. That's the core sort of components of it, but it's spaced really well. You know, they've got the right ratio between the red and the black. There are spots of colour elsewhere. You know, you've got the clover on the side for the Alfa Romeo logo on the back engine cover. That's a nice little touch. I really like the Italian flag with the Alfa Romeo on the rear wing as well. It's really overall, you know, a solid livery. I'd like to see something maybe special this year, hopefully, considering this is Alfa Romeo's last year as sort of a title sponsor in a way for the Sauber team. So hopefully we get something special at some point in the year as a last hurrah, but we'll have to wait and see. Going into the top 5, and in that number 5 spot, Aston Martin. They did the right thing and kept it basically the same. Last year's car was absolutely gorgeous. I was lucky enough to go to the British Grand Prix, and that green in person is amazing. In the sun, amazing. So I'm really glad they kept that sort of semi-reflective, really rich sort of racing green for the body of the car. Sadly, they've removed some of the fluorescent green accents that they had more of last year. Again, they've just got that sort of Petronas line going underneath the side pod to not even the back of the car. It kind of just stops. I wish they had more. Last year they had it on the top sort of thin part of the engine cover. They had it on a little bit on the front wing, I believe. So I wish they'd integrated it more throughout, and that's why this isn't higher, I feel. But still a really strong livery. Yeah, hopefully we'll be seeing that fluorescent green in future. Maybe a reverse livery at some stage where we've just got the kind of the racing green as an accent and the sort of fizz flow paint green as it kind of is as the main colour. That would look interesting, probably a bit too bright, but it'd be cool to see on track nonetheless. But yeah, Aston Martin P5. Moving on to P4, and for me it's McLaren. Not much has changed for them in terms of comparing it to last year. It's more of a sort of development of a livery rather than anything new, obviously. There's a couple of changes here and there. They've done the right thing and made the driver's numbers black as opposed to the blue that it was last year, which for me really clashed. They've separated the blue a lot better this year as well. You know, if you look at the livery itself, there's no blue touching the orange, so to say. There's like an exposed black line of carbon fibre or black line in between each bit. So having that separation, I think, works really well. In what is a sea of carbon fibre cars this year, I'm so grateful for the papaya more than ever. The fact that we've got that pop of colour, and yeah, the wheel covers are the best. If we were doing this on wheel covers alone, I love the chrome wheel covers. It would be number 1. The way they look, especially when obviously the wheels are actually going around, I think it's fantastic. Great idea from the team at Woking or Google, whoever came up with it, I suppose. Obviously chrome are even bigger into the the sponsorship of the car this year, it looks like, appearing on the wheel covers, as I say, but also the airbox, the engine cover, that sort of an area, and on the front wing as well. So clearly they're doubling down on their commitment to the team and the amount of money they're probably giving them as well. But overall, I think it's a really good development of the livery from last year. The fact that there's more black is obviously going to happen. I think we knew that was going to be the case. If you look at the progression of last year's livery from the start of the season to the end of the season, for not just McLaren but other teams, like Williams, for example, this was going to be the case. I think we've got a better balance this year of it with how it's kind of spaced out. We've got more orange on the car, papaya on the car, throughout the car, instead of not having it in certain areas. The wing, for example, is all papaya now, more or less, especially on that top and side bits. So yeah, really grateful that it stands out. Overall, strong livery, and that's why it's in P4. Getting into the top 3, and it's Mercedes. The Mad Lads actually did it and went all carbon. I didn't think any team would have the balls to actually do it, but I suppose the fact that they've had black cars in 2021 and 2020, it was kind of okay for them to go back to it. Obviously, it was such a statement piece for them as well at that time. So coming back to it, it's a no-brainer for them, especially with the weight-saving side of things, of course. I think they've done a really good job in making it look good as well. It's only the sort of top part of, where the halo is, the top part of the nose, where the engine cover is, where there is actually sort of vinyl or paint in that black, and then the rest of it, so the sides of both of it, it's carbon, and it blends well enough. Obviously they've kept the Patronus stripe going down the side. They pay them too much money for them to get rid of that, however much it weighs. Something that does confuse me is the green kind of inner bits of the wheel covers. Don't know where that's come from, as well as the green for George Russell's 63 number. I thought his colour was blue, so I don't know, maybe we'll see a change at some point in the season for that, reflecting that, but at the very least, the green for George and the sort of neon yellow for Lewis, at least they stand out, so they're going to be visible on the track. But overall, I think it's a very sleek looking car. It flows very well. It always has flowed very well. Something I'm really happy they nailed this year is the back of the car around the exhaust where the driver's numbers are. They tend to do a pattern on that area of the car each year, and sometimes they do a really, really good job. Like in 2020, they had the Mercedes Star, one of which was red for Niki Lauda. That looked really good as it sort of did a gradient as a fade. But then the year after that, they had the kind of weird AMG logo thing, which didn't really work for me. But this year, they've gone back to the Star again, the Mercedes Star, slightly bigger than obviously what it was in 2020, less of them, and again that fade out. But I think it's a really strong livery, and overall it's basically a Batmobile, really. Next, number 2, and probably the most out of place maybe car compared to some other people's lists, the sort of Marmite car, I suppose you could say. It's the Williams for me. I really like it. Some people have said that there's too much in terms of blue going on. They should just stick with maybe 1 or 2 blues instead of having the 3 or 4 or whatever they have now. But I think this design works really well. Obviously, just like everyone else, I was really disappointed that they didn't go full on golf. I understand why. They're trying to build an image. I mean, I guess that's the reason. Maybe golf's not giving them enough money, but yeah, I would have loved to have seen a golf livery. I think everyone would. You never know, we might get a similar situation to what we had with McLaren in the 2021 season with that one-off livery, the Monaco GP. So hopefully we can, you know, keep our fingers crossed with that. There are really good aspects of this livery that I really like. The accent of red sort of here and there, I think they've done it really well. The red outlining of the driver's numbers, that's really good. Yeah, I think it's a really cohesive livery, and the lines work on it really well as well. The Duracell battery on the airbox as well, stroke of genius. Obviously we saw it last year, I think it was the Miami GP that they did that in as sort of a special thing, but hopefully we're going to see it throughout the year. It looks like we're going to see it throughout the year this time round. Nice that they're doing something on the wheel covers, not everyone is. They're little arrows, fairly basic, but you know, nice to see that. But yeah, overall I don't really have much to say wrong about this livery. I really like it. Number 1, could it be anyone other than Ferrari? Last year's car, magnificent. This year's car, magnificent. So simplistic, but it works so well. The black and the red, need you do more. The introduction of the classic Ferrari logo on the rear wing, a bit like they had in yellow in Monza. They did that special one last year, but keeping it, I think it works better in the white personally. But honestly, it's a fantastic livery. The only bugbear I have is that patch of black with the Siva logo on it on the side pod. But other than that, I think it's a practically flawless livery. You know, they've got rid of the weird gradient they did a couple of years ago at the back of the car. They've got rid of things that don't work, and they've stripped it down to its basic components. You know, the red base, black accents, amazing. Something that did surprise me, I don't know when it happened, but Bang & Olufsen are the speaker company now sponsoring Ferrari. They seem to be jumping around all over the place. They sponsored Williams, I think, last year. They still sponsor Fernando Alonso, not Aston Martin, but Fernando Alonso. It's on his helmet. So that was a surprise to see their logo on the rear ring. That aside, this car is beautiful. The little Italian flag next to the driver's number, I think, is really, really nice. The only thing I'm not sure if it would look as good, but I did like it when they did it last year, is they had the colour coordination for the two cars and the two drivers. So you had Leclerc, who had red accents on his numbers and whatnot, to have that being sort of the signifier for him being from Monaco. See the red and the white flag. And then Carlos, he had accents of yellow, obviously being Spanish, the Spanish flag. So whether or not they'll do that in the main season, and this is just obviously for the renders, obviously we have to wait and see. I did like that last year, so we'll see if they do it this year. Something else I have to touch on is their amazing launch. I haven't really spoken about any of the others. We had a couple of really good ones. We had a couple of disasters like Red Bull and Alpine. What was going on there? Ridiculous. But Ferrari, amazing. Really good job. McLaren did well as well, but Ferrari, a live shakedown of the car, putting it on Fiorano in front of everybody, having the Tifosi live there in some sort of pop-up grandstands as well. Fantastic. It was a great thing to watch, and yeah, they really hit the nail on the head. So that's it then, my top 10 liveries, or rather best to worst liveries. I hope you enjoyed. Not long now until winter testing begins. That'll be the next exciting thing to happen in the world of F1. Getting to see, you know, teams that we didn't think it was possible for them to be top of the timesheets rise to the top. You know, Williams getting fastest laps in testing, and then obviously meaning nothing in the actual race when that comes around, as it always is the case with winter testing. You can never take anything away from it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. As I say, make sure to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.